Many years ago, I came across a few lines in a book that I connected with. They were, "It's easy to judge, but you never know another person's heart, what gives them strength and what breaks them down." I have learned to listen more and speak less. The result has been eye-opening conversations and inspirational moments that I have shared with you right here. Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Crystal One-on-One time and we're at Kampala Sheraton Hotel. Now they have holiday packages out. We're heading into the festive season, and with me today on the show I would like to introduce Angie Mirembe. Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. They're all your names?
All my names.
Just checking.
Yes.
Okay.
I have to use them all because when I was in London, my bank account actually got closed. You know how Ugandans put surname as first name and first name as surname, and then there was a mishap because there was an Angela Mirembe in school, so I had to end up using all my names.
Okay, so, just to be
sure. Otherwise I'm not also excited when I'm writing all the statements and all Angela Mirembe.
It's pretty long. But your friends call you Angie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do they call you Angie at home?
Yes, I've always been called Angie. I don't really know why my parents gave me the full Angela, because even they've never called me Angela.
Not when you're in trouble. At least I know that's the name that pops up when you've done something wrong.
Unless like my sisters are making fun of me and they're like, Angela, but I've been known Angie all my life.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So you are Ugandan,
yes,
clearly.
Yes.
But you were telling me that your upbringing, you were here, you were there. So where were you born? Where did you live in the early years?
I was born in Nairobi, Kenya, and then I moved to Uganda, then I moved to Lesotho, then I moved to South Africa, then I came back to Uganda, then I moved to London, and then I'm back here.
Well, it's good to have you home.
Thank you.
You are the founder of Coding in Heels.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that.
Coding in Heels, I'm not going to explain it in a business sense because as we spoke, clearly I'm not a business person.
But it seems you're more passionate about having women in tech.
Yes, it's a passion that came out of me. Number one, being a person who totally loved tech from a young age. Like, I always tell the story, I loved tech so much and electronics that I almost electrocuted myself.
What?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I was in my grandparents' house and we used to have a kettle that was put on the floor like near the fridge. So I always used to wonder, like, how does just putting a cord into the wall make this water hot? So I kind of like, I separated the kettle and the cord and I'm like, so where's this coming from? So I put the plug in, switched on, and put the cord in my mouth. Yeah, that was a big zap.
That was a nice shock.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, there's power in the wall.
That comes through this little cable.
Yes. So, so I've always been, I have always had a love for it. And it just so turns out that even after school and my closest female friends, we were always interested in tech. In fact, many of them work in the tech space. But I was working with an organization, and so I did a lot of training on Google products and skills. But I realized that girls were kind of like, this is boring. And I'm like, tech is not boring. No, I can show you, really, it's fun. And they were like, no, it's boring. We don't want to know. Talk about something else.
Why do you think that is? Is it because it's introduced at a much later age?
Well, I think it's the times. I think if you ask a Gen Z right now, is tech boring? They'd probably say no, because they've come up in an age where it's all the exciting things, apps and all that. But when I was growing up, tech was a big white Pentium 2, where you're doing Microsoft Office and SQL, and so it was not very exciting. If they left you, maybe you'd play Solitaire. That was the most exciting thing about a computer at the time.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain age group where computing was, I have to learn Excel. I have to learn PowerPoint. So it was very boring, and so maybe there's that mindset that that's what it still is. Like, if I'm going to tech, I need to go and do a university course. So there's that, but tech is so much fun because it's in everything. It's in fashion, it's in beauty, it's in just about everything. So I think the narrative needs to change a little bit. So I think that's how Coding in Heels was born. And people ask me why coding, and I think let me clarify this, because when I say I'm a fan of Coding in Heels, people think I sit at home and I code. I did coding in class and school and a little bit outside, but it's not my forte per se. It's very time consuming, and you put a semicolon in the wrong area and you have sleepless nights.
Yeah.
However, I think I wanted to introduce it because everything in tech and for IR, everything is that's the foundation. Coding is the foundation. So I'm not necessarily telling people that they have to go and get a degree in coding, but it's just something that is good to know, because with coding you learn how to think logically, if I can say that.
Okay.
Because I tell people in computing there was no, it can't be done. There was always a way. If you put an else if statement and do this. So I tell people to learn coding as well because it opens your mind up to possibilities.
Okay, would you say it's a language as well?
It is, because I mean, if you hear people are like, and that's what they call them, coding languages. Just like you learned your 1 to 0, and now you can calculate, enormous amounts of summations, or your ABCs, and now you can write paragraphs. If you learn the basics of code, like what are integers, what's a boolean, what's a loop, and all these things, then you begin to be able to be a problem solver. I can give you an example. When we're walking into maybe malls and stuff, and you have those sliding doors, when you approach and then it opens and then you pass by and it closes, that's an algorithm, that's a code.
Yeah.
But now people are just like, now what's code got to do with a door? What's code got to do with a smart light? All that? So just making people aware, and also because most jobs are heading into that direction. So it's not go get your degree in coding, but just take it on as a hobby. Just like I was talking about, just be able to have a small conversation about it. You don't have to go deep. Just know like what's the difference between HTML and JavaScript and all these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were saying that you were a very shy child. And I'm like, really? And that your mother would be like, no, that's not my child.
I was so antisocial. I used to
Please
embarrass
take us.
her.
How?
She was so embarrassed, by the way, by me, because would go to parties. She'd like, and then all the kids would be playing, and then I'd hide somewhere in the corner and pretend to read a book. And so probably her friends would be like, then why did she come? If your child's gonna be all bougie, why did you bring? and it wasn't that I didn't want to play. I didn't know how to blend in. I didn't know how to mingle. And I think my friends, although they tease me, in fact I have my friend Brenda Maraca. She'll tell you, there's a time I was living with her, and her mom would come and she'll literally tell me, Angie, today we have a wedding, you're coming, and there's no two ways about it. Thank you, we'll see you downstairs in 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So,
and this was like from the time you were little, you were always just more comfortable by yourself, or was it the people that you knew well?
I asked my aunt who, because I've been all over the place. So I've asked some of the people I grew up with, and I think I asked my aunt one time, I'm like, what was I like as a child? And she was like, you were quite reserved. You were quite reserved, and I think it also comes from, I like to think. I think a lot. Like my mind, sometimes I'm like, oh, Angie, go to bed.
Shut down for a minute.
For crying out loud. And so I think it was not probably deliberate, but because I'm always thinking about, even as I speak, I'm thinking about Aristotle. Because
okay.
Because I was watching something and I'm like, I've heard this Aristotle thing, and I realize I don't know much about it. I can't be ignorant. I need to investigate.
So in your mind, you're like filing it away, like
yes,
I need to learn
this
more.
Is a later to do. It's on the to-do list. So I think because I'd be so consumed by my thoughts, then it makes me very antisocial. Yeah. So there's that aspect of it, and then I didn't know what to talk about with people because maybe I didn't mingle so much, so I didn't know. It's like current affairs. If you're around people and you know what their likes are or what their dislikes are, but it's hard to engage in conversation with someone when you're not really aware of who they are.
There's some people are natural when it comes to socializing, and then there are people who are just uncomfortable. Like also just small talk. There's some people who feel like, what is the point of small talk? If we're not saying something of substance, then...
Yeah, I'm probably somewhere in between there as well.
Okay. And your siblings?
My gosh, I have a lot of siblings. So,
Is anyone else in this field as well, in the area of tech like you?
No, actually, most of my siblings are in the medical field.
Oh.
Yeah, most of them are in the medical field. But because I love medical as well. Actually, I think if I wasn't like a tech person, I would have gone. But I can't say we sit and talk about medical either. Maybe if we're discussing a disease or something like that, what's the right medication? But we just keep it shallow and jokes and stuff like that, and family, and yeah. So it's really just cracking ourselves up and family. But unfortunately, I don't have anyone who I'm saying, "Ooh, guess what? The tech space did this today."
No one like that?
Nah, no, thank you.
Okay, so are you the youngest? Are you?
I'm one of the last. I'd say I'm the, because we are 16.
Okay.
I'm the fourth last.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a big family.
Yes.
Did you all grow up together?
No.
Okay.
A lot of my siblings are step siblings, but we love each other just like it was a nuclear family.
Okay, how was school for you? Where did
Which
you go
one?
to school? Yeah, where did you go? And then we can break it down from there. Baby steps.
School in Uganda was typical. Overcrowded classes, Chiboko, that's canes for all of you who don't know Nakasero. I remember there was a hill where they used to lay us down. And yeah. So that
things that we remember.
Yeah. So when I think of Nakasero, unfortunately, that's what I remember. I don't know, maybe I was stubborn and I used to get caned a lot. That's one of my memories.
But were you the
going
only
to
one though?
office. Oh no, sometimes
you go to the principal's office.
they'd line us up like, you lie here, lie here. Yeah, maybe I had an issue. So I remember that. And then the transition from that, because I went to Lesotho when I was 9.
Okay.
And then I was put into an international school.
Whoa, completely
where
different.
I came from, 50 kids and 5 on a bench squeezed into, oh honey, you can sit over there. There's just 4 people that can, occupy this space, and the teacher would come and just kneel here. Do you understand? Do you need any? I'm like, what? What's happening? So, international school was great. The attention. Just international school is international school. So from there, primary, then I went into South Africa.
Okay.
Crossed into higher education.
So you finished your primary in Lesotho?
Yes. Then I crossed over into South Africa. Now, call it a blessing. I moved at a time when apartheid was quite rampant, because I moved around pre-Mandela. Now, maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but no one had actually sat me down to tell me now, apartheid is when white people don't like black people and all this. So I didn't know. So I walked in, I'm like, hey, everybody. And, I went to, and they were like, oh, we have a new student. And they're like, who would like to offer a seat? And this white girl, Laura, was like, she can come sit with me. And today she's still one of my best friends. So I sat with her, and she became my friend. And, they took me to the dormitory, and I put my stuff in, and then I went into like some white girl's cubicle. I'm like, hey, and there was that silence of,
like, who are you and what are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, you just sat on the bed, some Angie. And like, girl, don't you know the rules that apply? But it completely went over my head. So I don't know if it's because I didn't have that whole fear of racism and all that. But it turned out for me to have the best years of my life. I had white friends, colored friends. I'd go for these parties. Sure, you could sense that some teachers tried to be racist, but it still never really hit me like, oh, this is racist. I'm like, this chick is mean.
Like, what's her problem?
Then
no, it was an advantage.
She's being racist. And okay, that's what she's
that's
going
why.
after. Okay, yeah, but it was real, because at that time I was living with my aunt and my uncle. They were my guardians, and my aunt, Ugandan, and he was British, and they couldn't pick us up at the same time. They couldn't sit in the car together. Yeah,
seriously?
Yeah, they couldn't sit in the car together. So either it would be him to pick us up or her to pick us up. So it was quite real. So however much it would be like, oh, that's what's going on. But I did also realize that it was real. And I remember when Mandela then, young people must be like, this chick is old. Isn't Mandela dead? No. So anyway, rest his soul in peace.
Yeah.
So, what was I saying?
We shall talk about Mandela time. Yes. Previously on Crystal One-on-One.
Have you seen the challenge of dropping your firstborn? Like on social media, it's been happening recently. I was like, I think I should drop this firstborn for them.
Is it true you were scouted? Someone spotted a handsome young man and said, "Oh, I think you can be on TV."
Not really.
I saw that somewhere.
No. I've always wanted to be on TV for as long as I remember.
Okay.
You know, I was inspired by my sister, Dora. She's called Dora.
So you mentioned that you love food.
Yeah, I love food.
So do you cook?
I cook. My friends call me Chef Dero.
No way.
I'm telling you.
So give me an example. Can you like host like 10 people or more?
I wish I could show you a couple of snaps with my phone when I'm grilling and doing all that. There's this girl who put for me some sugar in my letter, and she told me that's how I test. I was like, wow.
And yeah, so I was saying when he transitioned as president, I was walking with my friend Laura again, and then people would be like, New South Africa, black and white. And we were like, we've been
like, whatever, we're friends.
Yeah, so then I left South Africa and then came back to the realities of Chiboko once again. Now this time I was in Namasagali.
Oh my, yeah.
Then I got reintroduced to the more sophisticated beatings.
There was a whole government and system.
Yep. Kosho and beans, like what? I mean, I was in school where people are like, oh my God, it's steak again.
That must have been
like,
hard.
What's for dessert? Custard and cake. Oh God, when are they giving us ice cream? Then it was like, yeah, your dessert is a piece of meat that you won't see for another 2 weeks.
If you're lucky.
So then I got introduced back into that again. But I had fun in Namasagali. I loved it because it was.
Were your parents here? Were you moving with your parents?
I was living with guardians. I have a really big family. So Namasagali was a lot of fun. The production, the boat races. So actually Namasagali was more like an international school, just with bad food and beatings. And dilapidated buildings. But other than that, it was fun. Finished that, then I went.
So you there for like A levels? Or
O level? Then I went to St. Lawrence Creamland for A level.
Okay.
That was also really cool because Creamland was very small. It was just HSC only, and it was art students. So we were like 250 people in the school.
Wait. You said you were really passionate about tech even when you were little.
By my S4 back, I was making pocket money teaching her friends like Microsoft Office. Yeah, so that's what I was doing like on the side.
Okay, but at no point like in school were you doing sciences or looking at?
No, like my mathematics, I resigned to math like in S4. I had an honest conversation with my mom and I told her, look, I'll try everything. It's like a menu. I don't eat fish and like math is the fish. I'm just gonna pretend those classes don't exist. So I apologize right now for the grade that's going to come.
Okay.
The rest I'll struggle. So, and I think that's why one of the reasons they were like, Angie, you can't do computing. You didn't even do math. And literally, I didn't do math. Because I think the exam, it was like, Angela Mirembe Semoger, good night, wake me up when it's over.
That's very interesting because a lot of people think that math is,
it is
extremely essential.
It helps if you're, and you see the thing is like.
But that means it's a limiting belief as well.
It is because it depends on which area of IT again. If you're, I will definitely say do math if you're going to be like a problem solver and all that. It's very necessary. But remember, tech is so wide now. Are you going to be a project manager in tech? Are you just going to be like viewing websites? Are you going to be a website designer? So yes, there was a time when everything was tech was computer science and that was it.
Yes. And
so
that's what people believed.
So math was really, really important. So when I actually finished my HSC, because I did healthy, and when I finished, then Aptech came up, and then that was the whole argument. Okay, fine, if you don't want to go to university.
So you said no?
Yeah, I said no.
Okay, first, tell us how this happened and how this worked. Where were you supposed to go? Makere?
Because you see, and I understand where my parents were coming from, because it's not like today where everyone's advocating for tech and women in tech. It was very different because here's a child, she comes, she's like, I want to do computer science. You're like, but your math is, it's a ghost. So how exactly
is this going to work?
and you're like, I don't know, but that's what I really feel called to do. And it's like, look, there are really good opportunities in these areas. If you go to school, you will not struggle. If you have a degree in this area, it's the best path. And
What area was that?
human resource management. And I'm like, look, I can't even talk to humans. I can't deal. Let me be honest. I can't deal. And they're like, you need to apply. And what actually, if I remember correctly, those last months in S6 when people were filling in, is it your first choice? And I didn't put anything. Reveal time. I didn't, because I knew I didn't, up to today I hear there are major courses like Educ, social science. I'm not an architect. I'm not these things. So I was like, I knew I wanted to do something in tech, but it didn't have a name.
You could, yeah, at that point.
Yeah, so I wasn't like keen on I want to do this as a first choice, and people were like, oh yeah, I gotta be here, and first choice, second, and I was like, no. I don't feel I want to do anything. I know I want to speak, but even that time I didn't know there were motivational speakers. We knew there were preachers, but I knew I couldn't be a preacher. So I was very, very confused. Actually, I suffered depression that year. I was really confused. So when they said, no, you can't, and so my mom said, fine, you do a year at Uptech.
Okay.
And I knew with my math problem, so I did like a diploma in Uptech, and I was getting like high grades. I was like in 80s, and so I was like, and I think that boosted me. I was like, okay, I didn't have any math, but I understand this thing. So when I finally gave the final no, I told my parents, no, I'm not going to university. I was a rebellious child, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't just obey, but something in me, I was like, I cannot do.
You just couldn't
3
do it.
years of something I don't have any interest in it. So my mom was like, so what do you want to do? So I said, I think I could go to London. Like, you want to go to London? I said, yeah. I said, okay. So she was actually going on a trip, a holiday. She came back, she's like, look, we've got you a school, we've paid a minimal deposit, you can do a course of 1 year. And I was like excited because me and her were like seeing a totally different level, eye levels.
So you're like, oh, finally she's
and
coming
I'm
around.
packing my bags because, we had a really hard time, and parenting is not easy. So she comes the next point, she's like, oh, here are your receipts, by the way. So we've paid, so you have to pay your tuition, you'll have to get your accommodation, because here everything was provided. So you wanted to go to London? So yeah, here's your receipts for your first, I think, 2 months, and yeah, wish you all the best.
Okay. And then figure it out from there.
I will. I got me. God's got me. And I was like, I remember sitting on that plane and like, it's me and God against the world. My dad sent me a little pocket money, what I told you.
Yeah, 50 pounds.
Yes, and I was like, okay, I can do this.
So you left to go to London. A course was paid for 2 months.
Yes.
Okay.
My course was paid for 2 months, and I got there and I had a place to stay for 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yes. And that didn't go well, because there's some people, you get there and they're like, oh, you've been here for a week, so when are you getting a job? We got bills. And I'm like,
that's expensive.
yes. And I understood, but I didn't expect it to be less than 2 weeks.
You're thinking, okay, until I find my way.
So another really good friend of mine, Sandra, was like, look, honey, I have a 1-bedroom apartment, but if you don't mind sleeping on one of those inflatables, I was like, girl, even if I sleep on the porch, it's all good.
Wow.
So stayed with her, and I remember being called in, because it was a vicious chain. You're looking for a job, but they're asking you for a school ID, but the school ID is asking you for full tuition, and so it was like a vicious cycle. And the headmaster called me, the principal, and he's like, honey, your next payment is due. I'm like, yeah, I'll bring it tomorrow.
Had you started by
No.
then?
I hadn't started working. But remember, my mom had paid that deposit of 2 months.
Oh, so she just paid a deposit.
Yes. So 2 months in, the guy's like, so honey, your tuition is what's up? I'm like, oh yeah, the next installment, 200 pounds. Yeah, by Wednesday. That's like Monday. I'm like, where is this money coming from? Day 2. Wednesday comes, they call me again. I'm like, look, I'm gonna unleash waterworks for this guy. He'll let me up. I cried in that office. He's like, darling, I understand, but we do need to get this, because if you can't pay, your visa gets revoked. So I sat on the bus and I'm trying to figure out, and you know, when people say miracle, they don't believe in miracles, they happen. So I'm like on the bus about to burst into tears, and a guy I studied with, Martin Karuma, I'm going to name names because these people need recognition. He comes, hey, and we used to be desk mates in Creamland.
Okay.
So he's like, what's up? I didn't know you were here. I'm like, man, I wish I could be happy to see you, but you don't know what's going on. Like, I've been given 24 hours to find £200, you know, told him the whole story. He's like, you know what? If you can meet me tomorrow, I can get you 100. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. So I could get half some wink of sleep. So, but then he sends me a text. He's like, actually, I got the 200.
Oh, man.
So I paid, and then that's when I told you that, you know, my friend put my CV online, and then I was called for an interview, and I ended up working for a furniture store in a very high-end place, Kensington, at Kensington High Street, and so life kind of started there.
Okay.
And so I told my mom,
were you
"Come
selling
visit."
furniture? What was the job?
No, the job was actually, it's a company called Bo Concept, and it was like in 21 countries, and they were selling high-end furniture, but it was modular furniture. So it wasn't like a set piece. So you'd have clients come in, then you'd build the stuff on
Based on what they want.
Technology. Like they'd be like, my room is 6 foot by whatever, and so I need a sofa that fits in here, and I want its color. So it was basically like,
so you design the furniture according to their spaces.
Yes, their space and the shape they want, and yeah. So that's when life kind of looked up. And I didn't regret, but I was also in school. I was in school and I was doing certifications. Yeah, so when I said I did get some education, bits and bobs here and there in IT, but I didn't particularly do
like a
full
degree.
No. Yeah.
Okay. How long were you in the UK?
2 years. The winter sent me running. I mean, I was offered a job because I then actually ended up starting to work for an IT company, and my boss was like, you know, you can't go back. You know, you're so good. We're planning to process your documentation. I'm like, no, I can't. And you can't tell someone, I'm leaving the country because it's cold.
And your
I'm like, no, my parents need me back home. I'm like, brother, I come from the equator.
And I think when you arrived, that was your introduction to the cold?
This gray that never ends, and the drizzle.
The drizzle that can go on for days and days.
I was like, no, I can't. I can't stay. So that was my little time in London.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you come back here?
Came back here.
At that point, I think your mom was like, okay, she survived.
She was almost there, but then I realized that the Ugandan workplace is totally different, because I then realized job applications, you must have a degree. Then I was like, oh, this is what they were talking about. And I remember the most humiliating day for me when I came back was I just started applying for anything and everything. And I think there was a job administrator. So I was like, I can do this. You know, Microsoft Office, like I have years of experience from my teenage years. So I got there and there were like 80 people. And it was like, you know where Metropole Hotel is now in Acacia? The building was around there. So I got there and the whole parking lot was full of people with their envelopes, like 80 of us. I was like, oh, okay, this is not gonna be easy. So a couple of people go in, and then this guy comes out and is like, I said everyone should be able to read. The job says minimum a degree. If you don't have a degree, please don't waste our times. Get up and leave. So I'm waiting for like a couple of us to stand up, and it just happens to be only me and the girl who they had thrown out. And the humiliation of people looking like uneducated people, get out of here. And I walked, because obviously there are no taxis there, I walked like from Acacia to the lights, just thinking, I'm ruined, I'm dead. If I can't even get administrator, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen to me? But I then got hired to work for a company, Comtel, and then from there things got better, into Warid, into Airtel. That was my corporate time, about 10 years, yeah.